Hi everybody, welcome back to Stormworks Sea Trials. Not got my webcam on today, just see how you like that. Today I'm going to do a sea trial of this relatively new creation by Spider. Again, I'm breaking away from my series looking at Spider's rescue vessels because I saw this one was new in the workshop, and it's an OSV, which are really great in Stormworks, really good vessels generally. So I thought I'd jump in and give this a sea trial treatment for any of you who are interested in trying it out for your missions. She's a really good vessel, you'll be glad to know. So OSV is an offshore support vessel. You can see there, big working deck. It's got this very large freeboard high bow. It's got an axe bow, which I think is Ulstein, I can't remember. Several of these companies making OSVs have this kind of patented wave piercing bow, and we'll see how it works in Stormworks. As you can see there, yeah, so it's an X bow, so there's axe bow, there's X bows, there's a few other patented piercing, wave piercing kind of bows. Actually helps the whole pitching in this kind of rough sea like that. So as you can see here, pretty much all the features of Spider's other creations, except we have a dynamic positioning system, which I was really interested to try out. 40 meters long, so she's a big one. You can see there she's not really got the search and rescue speed, but 30 knots is actually obviously still way faster than a real one. So let's jump in. So here we go in the editor. So she's a pretty big ship, not quite filling that editor space there. This big freeboard, big high forward working deck that basically keeps all the big heavy waves that you're going to plow into off your kind of working area. So your bridge here shouldn't get too many breaking waves over it. Significantly higher than some of the rescue vessels, this working bridge, which is very good for visibility, and huge kind of crane area you can see here for the crane operator. So it's a working ship, and somebody will be using that crane quite a lot to put containers on and off, or various kind of cargoes for support vessels. Two other key features are these doors that flap down here. These are very good for boarding or picking people up from the sea. I'm not too sure how we're going to use them in missions, but you can have a look at that later. So you can see there, she has a bow thruster system, a stern thruster system, and actually forward and backwards thrusters, which basically allow this to have the full dynamic positioning system, the DPS system. Very nice clean hull. So we'll just have a quick look in the section view. So it's actually quite a lot of void or empty space in this vessel, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be crammed full. It's a big vessel actually, so it's actually quite spacious. So huge working cargo space in here. There's actually a container lift here, or cargo lift. It'll take a container bed, looks of it, space for containers using that crane on the deck, and space for additional stuff under the deck. Nice double bottom empty space here, probably fuel tanks. And then cabins down here at the front, more cabins on the main deck above. Let's just slide through. So very, very clean, simple engine room. You can see there 8 large engines, and controls are out here in the corridor. Main deck has got this additional kind of utility space in here that a lot of Spider's creations have. And then up the top you've got here basically passenger space, a crew mess, a hospital or a first aid space, and then you go up into the bridge, which has got basically the crane operator's office at the back here, and a very nice space at the front. So similar to the rescue vessels in some ways, but more of a working vessel, and you'll see what this looks like once we bring her in. So spawn her in. I'll just do my dive on board. We'll do our exterior deck tour first of all. So we've got a couple of large winches here. Can be used to handle things on the deck. You actually have winches to handle, I think, to move your main tow rope around sometimes. This is very typical for a working vessel, open back deck, because she's going to be used to tow a lot of things. So they've got this absolutely massive winch here in the middle. And it's the usual thing, you get your ropes out of your hangers, there's plenty of storage for ropes and then or cables and you use them to attach them up here. Loads of tie-downs, loads of magnetic connectors here to put containers on the deck, so she can be used here with what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4 containers, if assuming you lash them down here, and this big powerful crane here that can lift, I assume, containers. I'm not too sure if you need to if that will reach up onto the side there. I assume it will reach up onto the side deck of a harbour to pick up a container. So yeah, that's your working deck. What I really like here is this rib storage area. This is made with that modular engine you can see there. It's very nice, and you've got a very nice covered area here, which would be pretty typical. These ships have a lot of breaking waves over the working deck when they're in the North Sea or in the Gulf of Mexico and in a storm. You've got your fuel there. You've got here your sort of fire hydrant, fire system here. You've got a nice little door that gives you access off the side of the deck here. Escape hatch down to that cargo space, which we'll check out in a minute. And yeah, I really like the fact that this is just a little covered space. It sort of make you feel nice and safe at home. So automatic lights again, and in here we've got basically our firefighting equipment. So if something goes down on that deck out there, you want to be able to get onto your firefighting equipment quickly. Additional ropes, first aid, welding, so basic equipment here. And then these two really nice side doors here. This is a feature of many mega yachts these days, where you have your kind of balcony and you put your table and chairs out here in the sun. For this kind of vessel, I can imagine using it to go alongside something. I'm not too sure. It's not intended to jump onto this in any way. I did try pull up next to a wind turbine and I jumped off it fine, but it did knock against it and damage this. I'm not too sure how that's going to be used, but it's a very nice feature on both sides there, so you can see there it's it. Good system. Then we get into the main stairwell. So this is very common in ships, a stairwell that goes kind of all the way through. It's easy to find. Nice crew quarters here. Did notice the lighting here is particularly nice. It's kind of a nice warm colour. So this is standard crew 1, crew 2. Sorry, this is equipment storage. I think everything you could possibly want in the game is in here. I'm going to leave that open. And then we've got two executive or officers' cabins here. So this is a little bit nicer. Some storage. Yeah, some simulated seating and furniture in here, but it's a bit more spacious. Perfectly acceptable for chief engineer and captain. We'll go down first to the lower deck. So again, here more crew cabins. And then it's not really got an engine control room. The engine control room is in here. It could have been separated off with a few blocks here, I guess. This seems to be larger than I remember, which is quite light. You see it as you walk up. That's your temperature and your engine rev, speed, fuel, temperature here. I would love to see some graphs here. That's something that I've been reaching out to the community to help me do some work with the Pi system. We've got here our 8 large engines. Looks very nice, very clean. No access down into the bowels of the engine room there, but again, it's a game, we don't need that. And the nice clean piping going on, nice pipe routing, approve of. Huge cargo space here, so I assume that it's intended to be used. It's a little bit of a not a glitch, but here there's a lip, so I can't get over that. I'm a bit stuck, so give up. Yeah, so this full cargo lift here, so I'm assuming I'll be able to walk over this easier when it's down. Yeah, and loads of tie-downs here, and it's got 4 winches here, which I guess allows you to pull cargo into any kind of position you want, and then to lash it down with ropes. So plenty of ropes here to see on the wall. Well, to put one piece of cargo in. I'd really love to see people photograph screenshot of this deck kind of full of small containers, I guess as it's intended to be used for. It's lovely how the light streams in here when that's open. So that's the cargo space. Close that door. Engine room here. Oh, it's really generator room these days, diesel electric, most of these OSVs. Crew cabins, and then we'll go up to the first deck, which is basically seating space for people you pick up a rescue, or people you may be taking out. This could be a crew that you're taking out to an offshore rig as well. We've got our nice little crew mess, as it's called, your dining area, an emergency area where you can get in and have a rest. And this is actually one of the ways to access the bridge. So you can climb up there if you don't want to get wet, if you don't want to go outside, but actually probably the most convenient way. You'd probably have a proper staircase going up to the bridge, but in Stormworks everything's a bit compressed. So this is kind of tween deck here. You can see down to the working deck. There's a small crane here. There's a dedicated davit, it's called, as you see there, for this tender, and that just swings out, and then you lower the things down, or it swings back in. So it's a pretty good system, assuming you don't unhook these cables, which I've done previously. So that should snap on. Yeah, you can give it a nudge, it will snap on. Another fuel, this is to refuel this smaller vessel, which I assume is using a different kind of fuel, maybe not, but it's got its own dedicated fuel pump. Crane control here, which I'm not going to test just now, because I'll show you the big crane in a second. And then smaller working foredeck here, escape hatch into, I think, that crew area. And this is really high up here. You'll find that sort of very few waves go over you here, even in sort of hurricane strength. So very good visibility in this bridge here. Another access point there. And we'll jump in, put the bridge lights on just to give us a little bit of light in here. So I forget where these are. There you go. Yeah, so normal bridge lighting. So very nice working area here. Huge screen here for, it's a camera, I think. Can't remember. This is a sort of standard screens, using these lovely long screens here, which is a bit of a departure from the normal clothes, fire extinguishers, etc. And then this great crane operator's deck. So it slides forward, you turn it on, and your crane comes to life. And I'm controlling it with the WASD keys here, so you can see there that's a pretty nice reactive crane, even with all the cameras. And then I'll just turn this back. And there is a remote control mode, so you need to come up here, turn it on, and down on the main I don't know what it's called, the main leg of the crane, you will find a remote control. I haven't tried that yet, but that's going to be really cool to do remote control on that. So I just need to duck down to get out. A few more seats up here, 2 water cannons, I believe here, yeah. So you can do your Queen Elizabeth welcome home arcs with your 2 water pumps on the outside. And then we'll jump in the captain's seat. So we're going to start her up. Oh, nice little beep there. Engines jump into life. I'm going to let them warm up to about 30 degrees. Autopilot as standard. So everything feels very, very easy and at hand in Spider's creations because they're kind of standardized. So you can see there we're charging up our batteries. Generators, I'm not too sure what that value is there. Weather, range and fuel information, time and heading. Foghorn. Okay, the usual space. So I might have my volume turned down quite low here. Let's just change this in OBS, so sorry about that. Give you a little bit more game sound. Very unprofessional of me. Yeah, so keep some instrument lights on. This is your dynamic positioning system, which I'll show you later. We'll turn on some of these other monitors there. And we'll get going because you should be warm enough now. About 30 degrees. And then what we'll do is just take the clutch off. So yeah, all the Spider's creations have this system. I've kind of got used to it. It does mean it's harder to operate them at very slow speed, but that's why they have this, in this case, a DPS system or the sort of bow thruster system. So if you want to shift this around for harbour and maneuvers, you would be using the thrusters anyway, and that's basically dead slow. It's got two nice large props there, which slightly oversized, I would say, for this size of vessel in real life, but there's nothing in between in the library. There's sort of smaller or that's large, but actually looks very good for the size of vessel. And you can see they're turning at what for me feels like a good speed. You'd be probably going a bit faster with that much propeller speed. So I'm just going to press my number 5 on the keyboard here, bring the power up. So 79% throttle, 24 knots. She's got a good sound as well, so she'll cruise along very nicely here in this weather. So let's just do a turning circle. So not as good a turning circle as some of the jet-powered rescue boats. So I just did this on purpose. I don't think I'll make it a full circle before that rock. I'm assuming it's just because it's using a sort of standard rudder system. It looks like it. Twin rudders, which I guess is giving you more turn rate than a single rudder. Otherwise, you wouldn't have twin rudders because it just give you more drag. But I'm assuming from the designers that this has been done to give her a better turn rate. So it's actually not too bad. Quite realistic, I would say. But those search and rescue vessels, you want something that can turn a bit better. This feels very appropriate for this kind of vessel. So I'm going to head for this island over there, and we'll start to bring in some wind. So she runs along at 30 knots at full throttle. We'll bring her down to 50%, and then we'll bring in the weather. So 50% wind, 50% throttle. There you go. So it's actually oblique to the waves. So yeah, the intention of an offshore support vessel is one of the vessels that's going to probably be operating in some of the worst conditions. You know, rescue vessels, offshore support, they have to go out to rigs, they're working, they have to get things done when the weather's bad. So the better your seakeeping ability of your offshore support vessel, the more it can work, which is basically one of its main design criteria. So you want it to be stable, you want people to be able to use the crane, you want the crew not to be sick. And I know Spider uses some automatic stabilization system as well for their vessels, and this seems to have really good seakeeping capability. It could be the size of it, 40 meters, but you can see there in 50% winds, it's hardly bothering at all with that. It's really working well. I'll give her full speed. So you can see there she gets a bit deeper into the waves. It's still running really well. And let's turn her into the waves. Basically no problem at all. It would be very nice to see an accelerometer. Again, another request to anybody who's watching these vessels. It would be quite nice for me, at least as a naval architect, to see what accelerations you're getting off these waves, because that would give me a way of measuring how comfortable the vessels are. But as you can see here, it's like hardly moving at all. I can use my binoculars here. Really little disruption here to my working. So I'm going to just slow her down again while I bring the wind in. That's extremely good sea keeping capabilities. Right, around about 50, and then we'll bring in full wind. So bigger waves. So yeah, like all Stormworks creations, they kind of jump over the waves. That sort of gravity, it's just not simulated enough, I think, to make her come down faster there. This is hundreds of tons probably in real life, 1,000. So, but you can see there we're at 50% throttle, and it actually looks pretty realistic. I think it's quite important for me how the vessels look when they go through the waves. I'm going to slow it down a bit because I've been watching the Safe Haven Marine videos where a guy called Frank Kalowski, excuse me if I kill your name, basically sea trials, pilot boats, and small rescue vessels, vessels which are made for really rough waters. And I notice what they do is they try to bring it into some waves which are in the Bay of Cork, I think it is Cork Bay, where there's kind of a big, it's almost a standing wave, I think, that comes over a reef or a sandbar. I'm not too sure what it is, but basically they get big waves in front of their home port. And what they do is just slow the vessels down and kind of keep them in this area where the big waves are. So this is kind of, it's for you, Frank, just to kind of keep the vessel stuck in the waves. I'm not actually quite into wind. But as you can see here, it's really not moving too much. Again, if I use my binoculars, okay, it's a little bit harder for me to kind of keep a lookout here, but this is full wind, remember, so that's pretty good. I'll bring her up again to speed. Let's sort of give it 50. You'd kind of hope that you'd still be able to keep 50% power in, and do some kind of operations in a big OSV like this. So 21 knots. She's rolling quite a bit, but again, I could kind of just about use my binoculars there without getting seasick. So you get a good chance to scan the horizon. Let's bring her around on a beam course, beam onto the waves. And seakeeping it's all about it's not just about stability, so how quickly a boat will right itself. Seakeeping is about comfort, and a variety of other factors. So when you make a wide boat like a catamaran, it'll be more stable, which means it will roll back to its original position quicker than a very narrow boat. So imagine a canoe tips over very quickly, and it might not, come back at all, unless the person inside it's kind of changing their weight. And then a catamaran is very hard to tip over. It basically just follows the motions of the seas. So in OSV, you're kind of looking for a nice compromise of not rolling with a frequency that's too high, so it will roll with the waves, but it shouldn't try to bounce back too quickly, to get a kind of level of comfort that's not going to make everybody unable to do their job. So this is actually really good. This is a very nice handling vessel. This is full wind, remember, doesn't look like it. So what else do I usually do? I do a little bit of lights at night time, but before I do that, this ship has one other major system I want to test, which is the dynamic positioning system. And I did have a little test of it yesterday, so I'm going to bring the wind down to 50%. I'll just bring her up towards this island here. So dynamic positioning system, the way it works is the vessel has to be in neutral, and of course ideally you would be going a bit slower, but basically as soon as you turn on this system, it records a dot. So you can see there that dot has just disappeared. So when I turn it on again, the dot just goes off, and that dot, as soon as you turn it on, it's basically trying to maintain its position on that dot. So let's just slow her down to right down, let's see. Might as well bring her right down to stop, which is what you do. And as I said, clutch has to be on, and we'll turn it on and off again. So we've got a red dot there, will come out, and you can see the red dot is no longer in the circle there. So now what's happening, if I click on thrust, we'll see that the thrusters are moving us around. So the one at the bottom there, -1, -2, means that it's thrusting backwards. Then we've got a bow and a stern thruster. So the bow is trying to turn us, and I better go back to main, we'll see how she's getting on. So she's off station, and we've got a setting on which says vane, which means it's allowed to weather vane into the wind. So let's just get back in the seat there. She's almost into the wind. So if weather vane's on, it will keep the location, the GPS latitude and longitude on the map, but it'll allow her to turn into the wind, which is probably what you would do in most DPS situations. The heading will try to keep her at the heading that you've got on. So if you so that should stay in this window approximately. As you can see there, it's not really moving from there, we're just rolling a bit. So it's keeping heading even though we're not straight into the wind. And if we go back to the screen, jump out again, it will slowly get her back into that circle. So she'll reverse back into, I'm not too sure, that's the front there. So we can check that. It's trying to go backwards. I can also put on high gain, so this will basically thrust with more power to get her on station. So high gain you need when it's basically windy or you've got high currents, and you can see there that she's getting pretty close back onto station. I think that's the speed that we're moving at, 2.1 knots. Let's just check that. 0.4 there, not too sure. It must be meters away from our DPS. So let's see if we can get, this will come down to 0. I think it's trending towards 0 by the looks of it. Yeah, trending towards 0. So there you go, she's on station. DPS is really interesting for support vessels because basically what it means is that you can stay over a diver. So you may have seen a really good movie on Netflix about this diver who's diving and the ship above's actually in a pretty rough storm, and the computers from a company called Kongsberg, which are really famous for DPS systems, I think there's a complete failure. There's like 3 of them for redundancy, and they completely failed. There's a catastrophic kind of failure, and the ship goes off station. And then the diver below, who's basically on a platform, gets pulled away from that. So that's why for diving support, DPS is really important. It's important if you're doing anchor handling for oil rigs and that kind of thing. So it's a really important capability that was only developed in the, I guess it was the 90s, 80s, 90s. And you need a lot of kind of coupled automation systems to do that. So obviously Spider and the creator, or if it's Spiders or if it's another creator who's created the DPS system, have coupled together the thruster system and the basically what looks like the programming in this thing. So you see we're off station a little bit there, but she'll come back on. So I think 1 or 2 meters off station would be fine for a diver. I assume you'd have enough cord. The other thing about DPS is, we're not really seeing it just now, but when it's windy, because it's using the thrusters, which are using the ship's electrical power, it'll run down your batteries. So the creator, Spider here, said, tickle her up to about 29, 30, and she'll keep those batteries nice and topped up. Because the last thing you want is for your thrusters to fail because you don't have enough, you're not generating enough power, which is what's going on here. It's a really interesting little insight into the systems which are running here. So you see there, she's almost back on station. So that's DPS, and of course there's a really cool test which we can do, which is to just give her a bit more wind, and we'll see that she comes off station with full wind. I think the only thing we could do is give her weather vane. So you see there, she rotates pretty much instantly into the weather. And this DPS system is, they'll have a rating of what kind of wind and currents you can run them in. So you see here we're 10 meters off our station, and basically just like a real vessel would not be able to hold station in certain sea states and certain weather conditions. So that's very realistic there, and we put it back to nice kind of gentle breeze, and we'll see her come back on station pretty quickly. So 9 meters, give her a couple of seconds, she'll come back on. So it's a cool ship because you can have her on DPS, you could do some diving, and know that your vessel is sitting up there exactly where you left it. So if you want to do, I haven't done any diving missions in Stormworks yet, but I've seen loads of cool submarine creations. You could do real nice, diving stuff because there is, don't forget, there's the full diving stuff. And there's the thrusters. You can see they're going backwards and forwards. You'll see them going on and going off. Oops, and I'm dying. Terrible to die when you're making a YouTube video. So really cool system there. And she's not as big as a real OSV, but beautiful way that everything's been packed in here, and really useful vessel. So I'm looking forward to use this. Again, thank you, Spider, for creating these great creations. This will be just great for 2-3 player or by myself doing some missions. So that is the Stormwind, OSV Stormwind from Spider. From the creator of the support vessels that I've been reviewing and sea trialing. Very good seakeeping capabilities. Full DPS system, as you can see there, back on station. 2 big cranes and a full sort of container storage and handling system on the back there. So all round a great little vessel and a good addition to the fleet. So that's all for now. Thanks again for watching and look forward to your comments, and watch out for the next video. Cheers for now. Bye bye.